The Lightning's West Coast road trip comes to a merciful end with a game against the St. Louis Blues after a couple of tangles with some top-ranked teams in the Western Conference. How did the Lightning finish off their first big West Coast trip?
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into today's episode of Locked On Lightning, and thank you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. Josh Sperber here on today's episode of Locked On Lightning, which is brought to you by FanDuel. And you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and they'll get started with a $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And you can also get odds for NHL games on FanDuel, as the Lightning, according to FanDuel, have a 52% chance to send the Blues back under 500 on the road. Lightning with a line of plus 152 as the favorite, over under set as 6.5, with a puck line as minus 1.5. You can check out those odds and more on FanDuel.com. And the Tampa Bay Lightning, after a tough loss against Winnipeg, where they scored the first two goals of the game against one of the top teams in the NHL, including a power play goal by Braden Point. The Winnipeg Jets ended up winning that game 7-4 to hand the Lightning their second straight loss. Jonas Johansson was in goal, so it means Andrei Vasilevskiy is likely to be back in net, gearing up for his 300th win, where honestly I think the Lightning just need him to get that. Finishing this trip, the longest road trip of the year thus far, finishing that at a 500 clip would be big for the Lightning. The last multi-game road trip that Tampa had, they lost the two in Canada and then beat the Devils 8-5. And getting 500 on this road trip would honestly be pretty solid. The Avalanche has had a rough start to the season. Lightning got the win over them, and losses against two of the hottest teams in the league. And now the Blues, who record-wise at the beginning and now at the current point are among the lower records in the entire NHL, with the Blues currently sitting in fifth in that Central Division in the West, with Minnesota and Winnipeg at 1-2 after those wins against Tampa Bay. And I think this was, on paper, the most winnable game of this Lightning's West Coast swing. So it's a game that the Lightning just have to win. If you want to be a playoff team, you got to beat the teams that you should beat. And the Blues are certainly one of those for the Lightning. Lightning are 4-3 in the last 5 seasons against St. Louis. And they need to continue with some success against the St. Louis Blues. 4-3-1, one overtime loss over the last 5 years. Andrei Vasilevskiy is coming off of a big win against the St. Louis Blues. He stopped 28 of 29 shots the last time that these two teams faced each other in December. And Jonas Johansson stopped 24 of 28 shots in his last game against St. Louis. So I think the Lightning just need win number 300 from Andrei Vasilevskiy. He is sitting at 299 right now, and a 300th win. I think it would obviously be nice to get that at home. Getting a big milestone like that in front of your home fans is always more meaningful, but I think the Lightning don't want to come back home threatening to go back to 500, currently sitting at 7-5, 5 points behind Florida. They want to get just make up as much ground as they can. And I think a win against St. Louis would obviously help doing that. But the defense needs to step up. I don't know if it's going to be moving Moser back to the first line, keeping him on the left side of the defense on the third line, if Emil Lilleberg comes back. But I think it would behoove the Lightning to put him back on the line with Victor Hedman. I'm always a believer in just putting your top guys in the top lines. and just, letting it trickle down. And J.J. Moser has been one of the best defenders on the Tampa Bay Lightning so far this year. We've talked about how good that Sergachev trade has looked so far for Tampa, especially with Connor Geekie, with a ceiling that he has. It just really looks like the Lightning got a steal in a trade for an elite defenseman in Mikhail Sergachev. So I think that putting Moser back with Hedman is always going to be a good idea. Just Lightning putting their best foot forward, and hopefully they can pick up a win against St. Louis. And a big milestone for Vasilevskiy's career is he'd be one of the fastest to reach 300 in his NHL career. And doing that against the Blues, a team that is also kind of like the Lightning, where they're in a tough enough division that you wouldn't expect. You can't really expect a playoff spot. St. Louis, though, is, benefiting from a wild Central Division. I mean, if you told me that after the first month of the season, the Minnesota Wild would be 8 points ahead of the Colorado Avalanche with one fewer game played, and the Utah Hockey Club would be in playoff position, I would be pretty surprised. But that's the case right now. And the Blues are going to be fighting to try and make up some ground. They're just 1 point behind Utah to look for that fourth spot. And, they're going to be fighting. But I think the Lightning need to just tighten up on defense, and they can get this win over St. Louis. I think they'll need a big game from Vasilevskiy. They'll need a big game from their defense. But I mean, as important as an improved defensive front is to the Tampa Bay Lightning, I think the biggest key to the game, if Point can't play, is making up for the loss of Brayden Point. Right now, Point is tied with Jake Gensel for third on the team with 13 points. He is second on the team with 8 goals, and he's up there in assists as well at 7th with 5. And Brayden Point is one of the best goal scorers in the NHL. His +9 is the best plus or minus of any offensive player. 5 power play goals, which is more than the rest of the team combined. Gensel and Kucherov have 2 and 1 to make 3. And Brayden Point has 5 of the Lightning's 8 power play goals so far. He's also got a game winner. I mean, the list goes on. Point is invaluable to this Tampa Bay Lightning offense. And if he can't go, we talked about this in the show yesterday, the Lightning are going to have to make some shifts to, kind of moneyball their way and make up for the point production that they'll miss from Brayden Point. I think Brandon Hagel's got to be an option to consider for that first line. Maybe even Anthony Cirelli if you want to make a straight swap at center. Nick Paul, who's already moved a couple lines this season. I mean, the Lightning have options on their team to replace Point, but I mean, it's just going to be difficult to find that point production. So you'll need to see a bigger game from Nikita Kucherov. He's put up goals in every game so far this season, and he'll need another big performance against St. Louis. I think he'll need multiple goals and maybe even multiple assists, but I think Nikita Kucherov, the onus is always going to be on a player like him, a guy who is that good. The onus is always going to be on them to step up when your team needs it. And right now, the Lightning are going to need it. This is probably going to be the only game all season where I talk about the Lightning's importance of offensive production being higher than that of their defensive production. The defense still needs to step up. That's a unit that the Lightning just need work on. And I think that they need to get their defense to a higher level if they're going to want to make the playoffs and, try and contend in the Stanley Cup Finals this season. But I think that in this game, if Brayden Point does miss time, I'd like to see a big offensive showing. I'd like to see, someone from the lower line like a Nick Paul or a Brandon Hagel come up to line one and step up. Maybe even Connor Geekie getting a chance on that first line, or even just at center on the second or third line. I mean, the Lightning just need to find a way to make up for Point's production and just get that started on the good foot. If Point is going to miss more time, no updated news has been given on Point's injury. It is a lower body injury. He was seen grabbing his groin while leaving the ice. So it might be a groin injury. You're not 100% sure, but his status for today's game still up in the air, and it's something that we'll be monitoring closely as we get ready for that one. And there's another offensive player to be monitoring closely, and that is Mitchell Chaffee. The youngster has been a breakout star for the Tampa Bay Lightning this season, and we'll break down more of Chaffee's third NHL season and his breakout year in 2024. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Don't search, match with Indeed. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support Locked On Lightning by saying you heard about Indeed here on Locked On Lightning. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. And if you need to hire, you need Indeed. We're back here on Locked On Lightning. Josh Sperber here with you. We've previewed the game against St. Louis coming up later tonight. And now we'll talk about one of the breakout players so far for the Tampa Bay Lightning in Mitchell Chaffee. 26-year-old undrafted free agent, signed during the COVID pandemic in March of 2020 by Minnesota. By 2021, he had earned his first NHL action, playing in 2 games for the Wild before the Lightning signed him in 2023 after he did not get NHL action between his first 2 games and his time with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Played 30 games last year for the Bolts, 4 goals, 3 assists. He's already scored 4 goals and dished out 2 assists in the first 12 games of the season this year, averaging a little under a minute less ice time than he had in the past, with all of his 9 shots on the net so far and 4 of them having gone in. Mitchell Chaffee is ready to have a career best season. 1 more goal gives him a career high, and another assist ties his career high. And Mitchell Chaffee has really turned into more than just a role player for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He has been on the 3rd and 4th line for the most part this season for Tampa, and he's just been a valuable player. His effort has been noticed on the defensive end as well. And the former undrafted free agent, with a goal against Winnipeg and goals in each of the last 2 Lightning's home games, one against Nashville and Washington at the end of October. And he's been kind of a breakout star for the Tampa Bay Lightning, able to get a little bit of extra time when Michael Eyssimont was on the injured list, and he's starting to rise his way up the Lightning depth chart. And, 26 years old, an undrafted free agent with the kind of production that he has had at the early point of this season. Chaffee's really starting to round into form and look like just a fantastic signing for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Really just improving year after year. And it seems like he's going to be a valuable piece of this team going forward. And there might be some other guys that we could expect to break out later in this month. I mean, I'm really waiting on, that Lightning third line. Michael Eyssimont is someone that we talked about, and he is another guy that is kind of on the verge of a breakout. Really someone that the Lightning have a lot of faith in as a young player. And, he was someone that the team was worried about missing significant time at the beginning of the season, but he's back off the injury list and now back on that Lightning third line. So with just 1 assist that came in the game against Washington, coming off of an 81-game season. And Eyssimont has taken a little bit less time on the ice, just getting back from injury. But, he's really starting to round into form. and become that player the Lightning expect him to be when they signed him or when they traded for him in the Nemastinkov deal with the San Jose Sharks. And, that has turned into a pretty big deal. Nemastinkov has become a key player for Winnipeg, and Michael Eissaman is still kind of looking there. So I think he'd be the next guy that I'd hope to break out, and really that the Lightning expect to break out. I mean, with his speed on the ice, I think it's just a matter of time with Eissaman. But I mean, Mitchell Chaffee has really surprised and become, more than just kind of a lower line player. He's really turning into a key cog in this offensive machine on the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I think that's been one of the reasons the Lightning have had such a strong start to the season, because they're getting production from just about everyone. I mean, that fourth line, that last line, you have Glendening and Girgensons, who are the only two active bolts without a point. Connor Sheary did not have one in 3 games. He is now with the Syracuse Crunch. But I think I'd like to see that fourth line step up as well. I want to put, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw Chaffee go down to that fourth line at some point. Just maybe get someone who is, made a big offensive impact this season on there. You have Cam Atkinson on the fourth line, who's gotten assists so far this year, and that's it. Luke Glendening has been a nice energy guy, and Zemgus Girgensons has just kind of been there. I mean, that fourth line has not been huge in production for Tampa, but the third line, the second line, the first line, they've all been pretty solid. And I think that Mitchell Chaffee has really set an example for that third line this season for the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's been part of the reason that they've been able to be so successful, and they've been able to really flex their offensive depth on the NHL this year. So I think Chaffee has been one of the biggest surprises of the season for the Lightning. I mean, he's certainly not a guy that I would have tabbed to be among the Lightning's offensive leaders at this point in the year. He's got 4 goals, which is tied with Nick Paul for 5th. I mean, it's one behind Jake Gensel. 2 assists for Chaffee and a +2, plus-minus as well. He's 8th on the team in points, tied with J.J. Moser for 6th. And 1-game winning goal as well. I think he's someone that is going to continue to step up, and he's someone that we might see rise up in lines as Connor Geekie has this year. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point Geekie goes back down to the third line, just so we can see Chaffee get the bump up and play with, Brandon Hagel, Cirelli, play with some more veterans on this Tampa Bay Lightning squad. And I think Chaffee certainly earned that chance, but, Geekie has been that good. And, as a rookie, as someone the Lightning are trying to bring along as one of the future faces of the franchise, I think it's going to be difficult to unseat him in terms of putting lines up, especially that since Geekie has been playing at that right wing position for the most part on the second line, where Mitchell Chaffee occupies on line number 3. I think that might be part of the reason that Geekie got moved up, so they could have Chaffee there, but also because I think Cam Atkinson is underwhelmed in his start to the Lightning career. And I think that is something that could change. I think some of the veterans certainly need to step up. We've talked about the lack of production from Zemgus Girgensons. Luke Glendening really hasn't made too much of an impact, and Atkinson not so much either. So I think Mitchell Chaffee stepping up is really saving the Lightning's depth when it comes to the later lines. And I think that now it's the veterans' turn to come up and, really start making a bigger impact. And I think that can happen. I think this is the time of the season where, everyone starts to kind of round into form. So I'd like to see, some young guys like Chaffee continue to succeed. I think Eissaman is certainly the next one that I'd like to see really go on a run and start to make a profound impact. But I think the Lightning just need more from their veterans. They'll need more from Girgensons, Glendening. I'd, maybe like to see a bit more shots on net from him, and Cam Atkinson as well. Those 3 are definitely guys. That fourth line for the Lightning really is not put in too much production, and that's something that needs to change for Tampa Bay. And that kind of feeds into our final segment We had Nikita Kucherov with a bunch of votes on X. Appreciate all of you who voted. We'll have a bolt of the month poll at the beginning of December as well. And now we'll see who might be on that poll as we start the month of November with game number 3 in the first full month of the year set to face off later tonight. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including the great state of Florida. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. If you sign up today, you get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Every Tuesday like today, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for the Lightning. There might be some Lightning players whose plays will be discounted on today's Taco Tuesday. You think Nikita Kucherov will get more than half a goal in today's game this week? You think Victor Hedman will get a couple assists? Cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this hockey season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. Just download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Make sure to download the Prize Picks app today and use the code below, LOCKEDONNHL, and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Back for the final segment of the day. Who will be the Bolt of the month in the month of October? And it was Nikita Kucherov, according to the vast majority of your votes. The Tampa Bay Lightning echoed the sentiment by making him the team's player of the month earlier this week. Really not much surprise there. Nikita Kucherov is one of the best offensive players in the entire league. And he had a dominant month. He got the vote, a couple votes here and there for Brandon Hagel, J.J. Moser, and Anthony Cirelli, but it was Nikita Kucherov who ended up with 75% of your votes on X. Appreciate all who voted on that poll. Now, we'll talk about 4 Lightning players who I think could be due for a Bolt of the Month honor. I think Nikita Kucherov is just going to be a permanent fixture on that list. So I'm going to go ahead and just say that he could repeat. That is always going to be an option when you have a player as dominant as Nikita Kucherov. 10 goals, 10 assists so far. He had 3 points, or he's had 3 points so far in the month of November, getting a late goal that tied things up against Winnipeg in period number 3 of Sunday's game. And he also got on the score sheet against the Minnesota Wild, getting an assist on Jake Gensel's goal back in the second period and a goal and assist against Winnipeg. So 3 points already for Nikita Kucherov, getting a power play assist. And that is something, a time where he just does so well on that power play. Coming off of a 2-point game, we might see another multi-point game tonight for Nikita Kucherov. Continues to cement his status as one of the best players in the NHL. I think he's a guy that you can just expect to be on that Bolt of the Month list for November. Another guy I would expect to be on there is Jake Gensel. He had a bit of a slow start to the season. Took him a couple of weeks to get his first goal for Tampa, but I mean, he has really become every bit the player that the Lightning have expected him to be. He's got at least 1 point in each of the past 4 games, 2 assists against Nashville, 2 goals to start off the trip against Colorado, and he got a goal and an assist over the weekend, including a power play goal in the loss against Minnesota. 5 goals and 8 assists so far. His assist numbers are a bit below the level that they were last year. He had 17 in 17 games against the Carolina Hurricanes, or for the Carolina Hurricanes after the trade deadline from Pittsburgh. But Jake Guentzel is someone who has seemingly just been getting better every day, just been getting more used to how things work on the Lightning offense and, becoming a key offensive player. And with a potential Braden Point injury on the horizon, he is someone that I think could really step up and, take over for some of the goal-producing production that Braden Point continually provides. So Braden Point is someone that I expect to be putting on that Bolts of the Month poll at the beginning of December. And, there's I think could be some defenders on there as well. I'm looking at that second line with Ryan McDonagh and Eric Chernak. McDonagh is currently the team leader in plus minus with 10. But I think one of those two, or maybe even both of them, will be on there. I think they've just been such a solid pair. Chernak with a +4 and McDonagh with a +10. But they've been really good, really solid together, and especially on the road. Chernak, who fought through an injury to play in that Wild game and then eventually the Jets game as well. They've been really good. So I think for the third one, I'm going to go with Ryan McDonagh. He's really limited his penalty minutes. He's been there on the forecheck, been helping on the offensive side of the puck as well with 4 assists. I think that he's going to end up with 1 goal this month, and I think that he's going to be one of the defenders on that Bolt of the Month list for the month of November. And the last player on that list, I'd like it to be Andrei Vasilevskiy. I think getting that 300th win this month is certainly going to be a factor that could put him on that Bolt of the Month list. But he had a tough start. 5 goals allowed against Minnesota, and I think though that we're going to see Vasilevskiy start to round into form. He's played well on the heels of a day off. I'm expecting a bigger game against St. Louis from him. And I think we're going to start to see, Vezina Vasilevskiy, the Andrei Vasilevskiy that has been mentioned among the NHL's elite goaltenders over the past few seasons. And, we're not going to be getting shutouts every game, but the Lightning have a bunch of home contests coming up. Of the rest of the game this month, Tampa Bay has 7 at home and 3 on the road. 4 on the road, including tonight's game against St. Louis. And Vasilevskiy has done significantly better at home this season. He's got another home matchup with the Washington Capitals on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And I think those extra home games are going to provide a big boost for Vasilevskiy, as he has allowed his fewest goals when the Lightning have played him in the net at home. And I think that, he's going to start to be more consistent in between the pipes. I think once he gets that 300th win, monkey off his back, he'll be a little bit more focused. And I think it is going to earn him a spot on the Bolt of the Month list, which you'll be able to vote on at the beginning of December. So I think when I make that next poll, it'll be Nikita Kucherov, Jake Guentzel, Andrei Vasilevskiy, and Ryan McDonagh as the 4 best Bolts of the month of November. You guys can shoot us a DM on Twitter, LO_Lightning, or put us in the comments on YouTube if you've got any potential bolts to look for at the Bolt of the month. I'm going to say Victor Hedman's going to be an honorable mention because, well, he's Victor Hedman. But we want to hear your feedback as well, and we do really appreciate your support. And thank you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen today. For your second listen, make sure to find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steel and Flint. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts if you want to win your league this season. We're hoping for a Bolts win tonight, but thank all of you for tuning in to this show once again. Please give us a follow, a like, a subscribe. No matter where you listen, we appreciate the support as we do this show for you guys. So thank you all once again for tuning in to Locked On Lightning. Make sure to follow and subscribe. Please subscribe on YouTube as well. We're only a couple away from 1,000, and we want to get to that 1,000 subscriber mark. So give us a like, a follow, a subscription. Make sure to tune in tomorrow as we'll break down the Blues game and a whole lot more. Until then, thank you all for tuning in and enjoy your Tuesday. Go Bolts.